Well, Michael Bisping brought up Conor McGregor. He ties Conor McGregor to Tony Ferguson. Says that would be a really interesting match. Okay, I agree with Bisping. But let's back up 1 week. Because last week, it was Conor versus Michael Chandler, to which everybody loved, and it was a really great idea, and that was the direction we're going. Now, let's back up a month before that. It was going to be Conor McGregor and Dan Hooker. And for a week, everybody loved that. Now, let's back up to the month before that. It was going to be Conor McGregor returning at 170 pounds, and he was going to be taking on Usman. Now, somewhere in the midst of all this has always been George Masvidal talk. Somewhere just prior to that, it was going to be the fourth fight with Dustin Poirier, of which everybody ate up and loved. And I can even remember back a year when for a week in time, it was going to be Conor McGregor versus Frankie Edgar. Do you guys remember that? So the one thing that we've proven, the one thing that Michael Bisping's recent comment about Tony Ferguson has brought blatantly clear to all of us, is that whatever you do with Conor McGregor, it works. You still all want to see Conor McGregor. Red Panty Night is still real. Conor McGregor is still the sport's absolute biggest star. And you know, whatever does happen with Conor, we are all going to eat it up quickly. If we put Conor McGregor right into a world title fight, say it's with Charles Oliveira. Charles is pining for the fight. We're going to do it at 155. We will all accept that instantly. We'll push and paw, we'll hem and we'll haw, we'll talk about why wasn't it Islam, and we'll do that all within about 5 minutes, and then we will accept, well, you know, Conor with that left hand. Charles Oliveira, he sure does get hit a lot. Boy, when Conor hits people, he puts them down. I mean, we'll go right into that, guys. We'll go to that in absolute record time. On the other side of the coin sits a Tony Ferguson who doesn't have the same era of invincibility that a Charles Oliveira does. It's a very different matchup, and it's a very different proposition that now starts to come in from the school of thought of this isn't about championships. This is about getting some reps in. This is about getting some experience in. And even though those are vastly different stories, with no other athlete could we do that. Could we be so interchangeable and so polar opposite and get the public to accept it so quickly? But all of these ideas of whether it's a championship, of whether it's at 170, of whether it's with George Masvidal in a super fight, of whether it comes back at 155 pounds, all of these ideas are predicated on the notion that you have a lot of Conor left. That Conor McGregor's story will end the same as the rest of the athletes, which is you're going to squeeze that fruit until every drop comes out. But Conor's in a different spot. Every athlete at some point will continue to fight for paychecks. If you were turned to an athlete, and it could be anyone in private, say, why are you still doing this? Their response, if they were open, would be, because they're still paying me. Conor's not in that spot. And Conor hasn't done any of his career the same as everybody else. And when you start to predicate on the notion that we're going to just have a whole bunch more Conor, let's get him back in there, let's get busy, let's kick it to the next one. We got 4 or 5 fights. Maybe we'll do that 170-pound BMF thing down the road. I feel that you're going in the wrong direction. And of course, I would have no proof. I would have no evidence. I just think when the story is done, we will look back. One day, we're not going to have Conor. That's how I think this ends. One day, Conor McGregor, just as quickly as he rode into town, is going to ride off. And he might even not do it as ceremonious as most athletes. He might send out a tweet, I'm done. He might. Everything that he's done has been different. I've heard people say he should go right into a world title fight and talk about how well he matches up and he could go grab the belt. But I've heard other people try to step in and say he should get some experience first. He should knock off some of that rust first. Both schools are operating from the idea that Conor, like most athletes, is going to continue to walk out there until somebody else steps in, says you're done, we don't want you anymore. And I think you're coming at that from the wrong direction. I don't think, like Conor, you are guaranteed he wants to come in and get some rust off and work his way to a championship. Or if you give him the championship and lightning strikes and he leaves with the belt, that he's going to come back and be assured to defend it. I think I'm closer to right when I tell you the same way that this happened as an overnight success is the same way he's going to pull the rug out on all of us. And he's never going to say sorry, and he's never going to look back. I think you have to take every Conor fight as you're doing the matchmaking and the booking and the guessing as to what that's going to be. I think you need to take it from the perspective of, this is Conor's last fight. His next fight is going to be his last fight. Does it meet X, Y, and Z criteria? That would be tough to do. That would be tough to know. I'm just sharing for you that from the days when it was going to be Frankie Edgar for a week to more recently where it was going to be Michael Chandler for a week to today where Michael Bisping has aligned McGregor with Ferguson, everybody gets about the same time in the sun with Conor, which is about 7 days. And then a new idea comes out. And everybody lays out all of the reasons why we as the audience are going to be very quick to accept and swallow whatever it is we're told as it pertains to McGregor. He has proven that he is still the sport's biggest star. But if you're doing the booking, the one piece of information that I think that you need that nobody's gone out and actually asked Conor is how many times, how many more walks, how many more preparations, how many more training camps, how many more weigh-ins, how many more contracts do you intend to sign?